Hello everyone, Rare Model Reviews here, and today I will be reviewing the Master Grade 1 to 100 Johnny Ridden's Zaku II 2.0. So this is a P Bandai variant of Char's Zaku II 2.0. As a result, it is literally just Char's Zaku II painted in Johnny Ridden's color scheme. Now it does come with some decals, which I did not get around to putting on because I am horrible with water slide decals, and to be honest, I just really wanted to get this review out since I'm really behind schedule here. This should have been out at least a few days ago, but better late than never. So this thing has a bit of kind of just like a, I almost want to call it like a carrot color. It's not quite red, it's more of an orange color to be honest, but I do like the way it looks nonetheless. So there's really not much else to go over here. I guess I could talk about the fact that this thing had a lot of leftover parts here, as this thing had a lot of duplicate runners. As a result, there's quite a few things that you could make like a bit variations with, such as these black parts here on the forearms. You can get these in red if you wanted to. Same with the back arms. You could have just straight up had this thing all painted in red. Of course, I wanted to go with the black as suggested, as it helps break it up a little bit. Like these here on the sides, these were supposed to be in like the same red as Char's Zaku II is, but I of course decided to do Johnny's red instead, as well, just looked better in my opinion. And I think I might have been able to do the centerpiece here in red as well. Again, it's just a lot of alternate color schemes you can go with, so it's really all your choice. Even with the shoulder armor and whatnot, you could have these in yellow instead of red, like the inside of the shield here. This is supposed to be red, but I used the yellow instead, again, to help break up the colors here and just make it pop a bit more. So I already reviewed Zaku II before, that being Dozle, so this is kind of just a bit of a reissue review, if you will. I mean, technically, Dozle Zaku is based off of the Master Grade Zaku II Standard, mass-produced version, whereas this is, again, Char's version, which is a commander type. So there are some subtle differences, which I'll go over at the end when I bring out Dozle Zaku II for comparison. But with that with that all aside, I'm going to go ahead and get into articulation. So first up, the camera here, if you notice that it's a bit of a glare, but there's a pink piece in there. So when you move the head here, you may notice that the eye moves a little bit with it as well. Sometimes these things are a little finicky. They don't want to move. There we go. Oop. So it's a little subtle. You'll probably just barely be able to tell the eyes moving in there, but it does, I promise you. So of course the head articulation could go right about there until it kind of stops. The mechanism that makes the eye move, it kind of restricts a little bit. If you were to kind of break the mechanism, not break the part, but kind of like break it out of that, oops, little swiveling motion, you could get the thing to move 360, but of course I would not recommend doing that because you might actually break it. So I don't know how in the world I got this horn to come off, but I did. There we go. So getting on with the arm here, this can go 360 as shown. This little shoulder piece here has quite a wide range of motion here, so you can easily get it out of the way to get this thing bent up decently high. You of course have 360 under the shoulder here. You have a perfect bend out of this thing's arm. And one thing I have to point out for any of you guys who are on the fence of getting a 2.0 kit, even though this thing is like over a decade old, this is, again, I say this all the time in my reviews, where Master Grades really started to get crazy. They started to get good around the mid 2000s, but the late 2000s, when they started doing the 2.0s and whatnot, is where, again, the articulation just gets like ridiculous. Like, these aren't the bracket style hands you see in modern kits, but they do have the perks, such as you can see here, the bend at the knuckle there. Each finger you could technically get individually articulated if you were to kind of cut these little pieces off individually. I decided to keep them attached, as I tried that before. They were super duper loose and floppy, and overall it just wasn't worth it. But going on with the other arm, oops, that's one thing I hate about these things. These horns always want to fall off. They're so like very loosely put on, but again, it has that same swivel motion as the other arm. So again, does not hinder the motion at all. And actually honestly helps it, if anything. Now, of course, due to the nature of this kit here, everything here from the waist is kind of attached, so there's no movement there. But it does make up for it by having one of the rare articulated armor there. So the side armor moves a little bit, not much. So it is going to kind of hinder the movement. This thing would be able to do a split if it weren't for the side armor. The front armor, geez, thankfully, is much better and less restrictive. So, oops, you can get that thing up pretty high. Well, yeah. Now that that popped off, so you know I'm not a liar. This thing indeed could do a split if it weren't for the side armor. So popping that back on in, which is a little bit of a chore because this thing's on by a ball joint. But there you go, snaps right on. I guess I didn't quite show the bend at the knee, but again, perfect bend there. These 2.0 kits are ridiculous. Can even move below the hip there, I guess you call that. Has this nice little middle wire here that helps make this little cable here bend and flop all over. So this would not hinder articulation at all. Again, they thought this thing through very well. You have a little bit of wiggle at the toe here. You can again move it up towards that way. You can also bend it there at the toe as well. So you get some nice crouching and kneeling poses with this thing. And thanks to the fact that Zaku's always kind of had big, flat, wide feet, this thing has like no balancing issues at all. So again, sky's the limit with these things. There's a lot you could do with these things. It unfortunately does not have much tippy toe movement, so this is pretty much the best you can do, but still not bad at all. For the most part, you should be able to get all the nice aerial poses or even ground poses you want with these things. And there is a bit of articulation as well with the backpack here. You could move this little slot here at the bottom of the thruster down like so. You can make that out. So you can see the difference there between it moved and not moved. Or as you can see here with the right side here, you can move them all together in one piece. So very cool. I'm absolutely like in love with this thing. And I honestly didn't expect this thing to have a different backpack. So that was a bonus for me and helped this thing feel a bit more fresh compared to the other Zaku I did, which again is based on a standard mass-produced type. And this is more so for storing weapons, but I thought I'd show it off anyway. So I believe that's it for articulation. I don't think I missed anything here. If I did, hopefully I remember and I could show it in the next part, or the last part rather, because the next part is going to be the next part is going to be accessories. So let's get into accessories. All right, now getting into accessories here. Well, actually, technically, this is an accessory. This is a part of this. Anywho, we have an exchangeable headpiece here. Now, this is really just leftover parts, but I guess we wanted to pretend that there was Johnny Ridden units with them that shit his colors. There you go. You could have that. We have, this is supposed to be more of like an anime inspired horn, whereas the one we have on now is, I guess, the more modern take of it. We have the bazooka here. I'll show off a bit more of it in a bit because I'm kind of holding this thing with one hand and fiddling around with the other, so I can't quite go into it there. But we have the Johnny Ridden figure here. Now I want to mention that this thing does come with a Char version of this as well, so it's literally just Char painted a different color. I think I still have that thing on a runner. I might even throw out that runner with that Char now that I think about it, because I don't plan on using it, so I don't need a second Char figure. We have the little lift here. Again, go over this one in a bit, as there is some articulation with that thing technically. Same here with this, and I actually didn't put this piece on all the way because I wanted to show this off a little bit more, because these things are very detailed, like unnecessarily detailed. So we have this piece here for the crouch, which allows this thing to stand on an action base. Speaking of which, I actually got to grab one so I can show that off. This here is for holding the Heat Hawk, which is right here, of course, on its waist. Now, one gripe I always had about these Heat Hawks, the fact they always molded it just black, yet you look on a menu, it'll say, oh, it's supposed to be purple. Yeah, so a little bit of a pain there, but now that we have seen what accessories comes with this kit, it's time to see them in action. So for the heck of it, I also took the liberty of installing the classic version of the antenna there, if you can notice the difference. And why not, I can actually go ahead and put the the grunt type version on as well, if you guys want to see it like that as well. So I'm going to scoot this guy over to the back for a second, and we're going to take a deeper look at the pilot figure here. So I'm pretty sure it's just like a little basic-y pilot figure that you probably would have seen in the mass-produced version of the Zaku. that they just probably threw in here. But regardless, you also have the lift here. Again, this is the same as Zaku II. Now, I never reviewed Zaku II. Funny thing is, I almost built that thing, but I stopped after I got the accessories done and just went ahead and built Johnny's because I wanted to do that one instead of Char. So eventually I'm going to pick back up on the things. I literally didn't start anything on the Zaku II itself besides, like I said, accessories. So that's one issue I have with this lift here. The fact that the old pilot figures didn't have the stands on them. And as a result, yeah, you're going to be very hard pressed to manage to balance this thing enough to actually stand up. So most of the time, it's just going to flop down like that. But ideally, you'd want to go ahead and do that. And then, you know, you go open up the cockpit there, as you see there, and show off the nice little gimmick of the cockpit opening up. And of course, this thing has a nice little mechanic here where if you remove the backpack, if you can see that little switch there, you can move that switch. And as you see, it moves where the cockpit hatch is. So I'm not sure if you guys will be able to make that out. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this. There we go. Let's see. I be able to do it with my finger, actually. I don't think I need this. So you guys should be able to see the, if I can get this going right, there we go. The cockpit kind of swiveling back and forth there. So you guys can make that out. You can switch which side you want the cockpit. So if you prefer it on the left, you can do it to the left. If you prefer it to the right, you can do it on the right. So we'll, of course, replace the backpack there. And a lot of this stuff's so tough doing off, sorry, on camera. You gotta kind of balance between looking at it and, there we go, making sure it looks good on camera. So next up, we have, I guess I did a machine gun actually. So first off, what I wanted to show the machine gun, besides the fact you can remove the drum here, is again, just how detailed they get with this stuff. Like, as you can see here, each individual bullet is molded in here. It's of course in black, but this is something you're not gonna see. I can tell you right now, once I close this cover on this thing, I'm gonna have to literally pry this thing back open for you guys to even be able to see the bullets, but it's still very cool if they did that. And another thing you can do with the drum here is you can go ahead and paste it onto the back. So if you want to kind of have them with extra ammo, you can do that. Fortunately, there's not an extra magazine, so you have an empty gun here, so that wouldn't look very good. So of course here, the scope here is colored in pink. There was a clear piece as well, but of course I wanted to do it in pink. The second handle there can move, and if you want to get this thing in its arm, you can do it in either arm. They both have pegs on them, but of course I'm going to do it in the dominant right hand. So you would simply just peg this thing on in to the hand. Oop. And unfortunately, that's the thing with a lot of these older style kits. Even when you peg it in the hand, it still doesn't quite want to stay. So I had it in for a split second, it came right off. And it's very loose. As you can see, this thing keeps wanting to fall off no matter how many times I peg it in the hand. There we go. So it holds just fine with the peg. It's just, again, you tap that thing and it'll come right on out. So I'm not going to get too crazy with this thing. But of course, if you did want to hold this thing with both hands, you can. It'll take a little bit of finagling, but you can do it. Oh. And honestly, if this thing didn't fall over, this thing honestly can kind of hold the gun just fine without the peg. It's got a firm enough grasp on it. Help if the trigger finger wouldn't flop all around like it is doing now. But yeah, there you go. You can hold it again without the peg just fine, which I'm doing now. But again, it just takes a little bit of fiddling around with it. But moving on to the next accessory, and the same horn falling off for the umpteenth time. We have the Heat Hawk. So first and foremost, you have the little clip for it that you'll be able to put onto the side here. And much like the machine gun, peg on each side so you can do it in either hand. You could try holding in the hand like so, but this thing is so skinny, you're gonna end up holding it like that, so you really have to use the peg on this one. So, thankfully, I feel like the peg is more so designed for the Heat Hawk because this thing has like almost no issues with the Heat Hawk at all. As you can see, I'm shaking this thing. Everything on the kit itself is stiff first and foremost, and Heat Hawk does not want to come out. So that's one thing I always complained about with a lot of the older kits that did the pegs. I swear most of these pegs were made more so for one accessory than the rest of them. They try to do the universal thing, but it's always like biased on accessories that it wants to hold in with these pegs. So of course, when you're done with the Heat Hawk, you just go ahead and plug it on into this little side piece here. You kind of have to angle it to the side like that, though, otherwise it's going to bump the arm, but voila. So our last accessory is going to be the... Oh, wow, I think I might have put this scope in backwards. That's not good. Could be wrong. Maybe not. But anyway, so I actually showed it off camera, not looking. But this little piece here, you can't open and close it. Problem is, you kind of would end up having to use tweezers or something to get that thing out. Because, yeah, this thing is a bit of a pain to get out. So I'm almost positive there's another side right here. But yeah, I'm almost positive I put this thing in backwards somehow. So I have to fix that because yeah, this doesn't seem right somehow. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be pointing towards the enemies, not yourself. But anywho, me being stupid aside, you of course have the little secondary handle which can fall off as well as articulate. Now, this thing has two different handles which helps it so you can have this thing pointed straight up or under the shoulder or whatever. Unfortunately, it's only for one side, not the other, so you kind of are forced to hold the bazooka in the right hand. So I'm not going to go too crazy with this thing because these things are a pain to pose with. Thankfully, just like the machine gun, for the most part, it does hold in just fine without the peg. And again, as I was mentioning, you can also get it over the shoulder as well as under the shoulder. And this is all without the peg, so for the most part, I say just with both the range accessories, just try to fit it into the hands as best as you can. You know, work out the pose that way. Don't bother with that peg. It holds it in just fine. You're going to be here all night trying to get that thing all perfect with the peg in. So when you're done with the bazooka, you would just go ahead and work out that tab here from before. You gotta move the scope down. And actually the heel kind of gets in the way. But you just go ahead and kind of rest it like so on the back here. It's not flush or anything like that. It's kind of just bouncing in. So as a result, as you see, it'd be very eager to fall right off. But we're going to end this thing off. But of course, first and foremost, putting on the proper antenna because it kind of looks crazy with the other one on. And showing this thing on the action base. So to do that, you kind of got to spread them open here a little bit. You'd go ahead and move that little tab here from the side. And then you go ahead and plug in the action base piece there. Now if I can move all this crap out the way, we can now set him on an action base and get this guy airborne like he was meant to be. So that is it for Johnny Ridden's Zaku II 2.0. And we're going to end this thing off with more of a comparison, a size comparison, because obviously these things both being Zaku 2s, they're the same thing. They're going to be the same size. But we have, of course, Johnny Zaku II and Dozle Zaku II. So, again, they should be about the same size. If one of them appears to be bigger, it's because one of them's not quite aligned properly. But going on to the differences with these things here, again, with Johnny's being based on Char's commander type version of Zaku 2 and Dozle's being based on a grunt type. The only differences really are going to be laughably the backpack. So, of course, Dozle does have different shoulder armor here. If you notice there from the top, Dozle's has one extra spike than Johnny's. And of course, it's two spikes instead of the short armor, but he has backup pieces because again, they've reused a lot of stuff. So if you wanted, you could have Dozle's with the same shoulder armor as Johnny's. I have a review of this thing up already. I'm going to put in my description for any of you curious to see in depth what the differences are. But again, as you can see, the backpacks are different. Again, with Dozle's using the standard grunt type version of the backpack, it's a lot slimmer. It doesn't have the bigger, more articulated thrusters as the commander type here. So that is one glaring difference. This thing also, of course, has a different horn, but I'm pretty sure everything else besides the horn are the same. And we, of course, have the color scheme and decals, but besides all that, and this thing's signature weapon being this giant axe, which I'm almost positive is the original axe from the 1.0. All the accessories are pretty much the same. Dozle does not come with this lift, though, but one thing I can definitely say about the Zaku II is there are just so many of these 2.0s out here at this point. I recommend all of them 100%, but it comes more of a question of, do I recommend this specific version? So I definitely would recommend Dozle's version because not only does the green rubble and decals look amazing on this thing, it at least has that axe here, which is pretty cool. And just about everything all the Zakus come with. Whereas Johnny's, his is literally just a recolor of Char's Zaku II. And I'm actually kicking myself for this. I'm an idiot. I guess either the images on the P Bandai's website weren't good enough, or I just wasn't paying attention. I just got so excited and just bought this thing right away. I didn't realize that there was a standard release of Johnny Ridden's Zaku II High Mobility Type 2.0, which is basically this exact same kit, except the backpack is different again. And the legs, they're, well, different from this thing. It's like more thrusters and stuff on it. So that thing costs roughly about 40 bucks, give or take. I can't find it. There's no telling if or when Bandai will do a reprint of it, but I can say there was a P Bandai variant of that thing for Shin Matsunaga's version, which is literally that kit but in white. If you wanted Johnny Ridden Zaku 2, I recommend trying to seek out that high mobility type, as again, it's a bit different from this version. I believe it comes with the Dom's giant bazooka as opposed to Zaku's bazooka. And again, it just the legs have different thrusters. So that's the version I'd get if I were you. If you did want, however, a little vanilla looking Zaku 2 with Johnny's color, by all means, pick this thing up. But if you, again, want more of a definitive Zaku 2, there's plenty out there. There's a Zaku cannon. I think there might be the Zaku mine layer. There's Char's Zaku. Again, I recommend getting one of those before Johnny's. You definitely want to get the high mobility type if you want a Johnny Ridden Zaku 2. So again, this isn't me saying this kit's bad. No, it's great. All of the Zaku 2 2.0s are great. It's just, with there being so many different variants of these Zakus, this point in particular, I couldn't say I'd recommend. Now, what makes me feel a little bit better about having this thing, again, is the fact that I at least could get the Shin Matsunaga version of the high mobility type, so I still would be able to get that thing in my collection without feeling stupid for having two, Zaku's on Johnny's color. That would kind of help fill that void, but I feel like I'm going on and on and on here, so I'm going to end this off by giving you guys my usual spiel. So thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to give some comments down below and subscribe. It's free of charge, and you'd be doing me a huge favor by doing so, as well as doing yourself a favor by staying up to date with all my uploads. I usually like to do at least one upload a week, if not two, for unboxings. And we will be having another unboxing very soon, by the way, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.